of drawing the barriers. And as stewards, their interrogation skills were spot on.
When you were a child, did you want to become a jockey?
My father was a jockey, and that I had always idolized him, and I think that I was probably in trouble from my mother for riding the chairs and the couches at my house and whipping them with a whip.
America's Cash Asmussen rode nearly 3,000 winners in his career and has won the Arc de Triomphe and Breeders' Cup Mile. This is his first visit to Australia.
I don't think you could have a bigger compliment to the sport of racing that we love so much, to see the Australian people stop the nation for a day and go racing.
Another legend was also brought out of retirement on the eve of the race. 92 Melbourne Cup winner Sub-Zero. What do you think of that?
I like horses very much. I haven't been on a horse for nearly a year now, so I felt good to be back up on the horse.
Some legends both as jockeys and horses there, and there is the lineup for the Emirates Airline Legends Jockeys race. What a thrill it is to have these men and this lady here with us, Ken.
It certainly is, Pete, and isn't it a great name for a jockey, Cash?
Yes.
Cash Asmussen. And you know, he looked after Darren Beadman when Beadman went to France as a kid.
Yeah.
And Darren says he's a super guy.
Cash Asmussen, originally from Texas, and there he is coming out, being introduced to the crowd. But of course he did all of his riding in France, 5 times winner of the French Premiership.
Number 2, Jason
and
Weaver.
he was actually probably, along with Steve Cawthon, responsible for introducing the Crouch style of racing to the European jockeys. Jason Weaver, who won last year, came out here a few years ago and rode Double Trigger in the Melbourne Cup. They said he was the best stayer we've ever seen. I'll never forget the sight of Jason scrubbing the ears off Double Trigger when they came past the 300 in the first lap.
Yeah, weight beat Jason as a jockey, but he rode over 200 winners in one season.
Some other great riders from around the world. In the green is John Reid from Ireland. Career over 25 years. He now works for At the Races, the English racing channel. David Peake from New Zealand. 6 premierships to his name. Over 40 years in the saddle. That's some career.
Yeah, came to Sydney and rode a couple of Group 1 winners in Sydney. He was over there on a horse called Prince Majestic.
Yep. He rode the Sydney Cup winner in 1978. My good man, won the Spring Champion on Prince Majestic. And there is Hiroshi Kawachi. We saw that his fan club is here, and why wouldn't they be? 3 times Japanese Racing Association Premiership jockey, and he's won over 2,100 races. And there is the lady, Pam O'Neill. Let's hope she has an easier time than last year, Ken.
Yeah, she's a lovely, lovely lady, and she had to wait for the laws to be changed to get a licence, and she would have ridden many, many more winners had that come earlier. And there he is, Mr. Personality, the Miracle Man, Malcolm Johnston. Just got nutted in a Melbourne Cup on Kingston Town, but did win 25 races on the black horse.
A great rider, and here is another great rider too, Alfie Matthews. I spoke to Alfie a couple of weeks ago when he was getting into track work to prepare for this race, Ken, and about 2 days after he had his first ride on the track, he said, I've just discovered that I've got muscles I didn't know that I had.
My mail is that Alfie's done a lot more training than any other jockey in the race. He's ready for it.
I think he might have done a little bit more training than Jason Weaver, who was just a fraction over the weight that they thought he was going to be. Pam O'Neill, she fought so hard for the lady jockeys over the years, and then she won the first unisex race ever run in Melbourne. She rode a horse called Consular, and she beat a fairly handy jockey when she did it, a bloke called Higgins.
Yeah, she's a very good jockey, Pammy, and she'll do the job well, don't worry about that. Malcolm Johnston rode 40 Group 1 winners in a pretty short career, or 39 I noticed looking at the statistics. I was 1 out.
I reckon Pam would have been very proud the other day when Claire Lindop was introduced to the crowd here, because she was the one who blazed the trail, and then Claire made that little bit of history the other day in becoming the first Australian woman to ride in our great race. There's John Reid, the Irish jockey, tremendous talent. And
another thing, Pete, the greatest of them all, the mighty Lester Piggott, is sitting in the stand to cast his eye over the action here today, and good to have Lester here, who's a guest of the VRC. And you'll notice the different styles of these jockeys when they ride. And I'm told, if you haven't seen Cash Asmussen ride, he's absolutely poetry in motion.
They're just about to jump on their horses, and we'll watch them fly very shortly in the Emirates Airlines Legends race. And there are so many people looking forward to this particular race, race 4A on the program. Neil Kearney is no doubt one of them, and he's been catching up with just some of the sports stars who've been here at Flemington throughout this week.
The last time he came to Melbourne, he carried a punctured lung and a broken rib into the grand final, and of course the Brisbane Lions won. Nigel Lappin, you've got Sure Bet in the next.
Yeah, we have. In the 5th today. He's a dry tracker. He raced in Adelaide all through the winter and over a bit longer distances, and he didn't have a lot of success, won a couple of races, but we're hoping today that he'll get back and get home hard like he did in the first race here last year.
So Nigel, is he a sure bet?
He's far from it, yeah. No.
Will you be betting on him?
I will be, yeah. They have an owner's bet for sure, but as I said, we're just looking forward to him get out there having a run and hopefully running home.
Now, that salary cap up in Brisbane's a bit more generous, so blokes can own racehorses, but I guess the big question, how is your health?
Yeah, pretty good. I was sore up until about 2 weeks ago, but the last 2 weeks we really picked up and we kick off Wednesday.
Still sore from the grand final?
Yeah, just from what happened there, but I mean nothing too serious, and we kick off in a couple of weeks, so looking forward to that.
But you weren't going to miss the 3 in a row?
No, definitely not, and as I said to you before, it was a great win. The boys played awesome. It was good to be part of it.
So for all those Brisbane folks, Sure Bet in the next.
Great footballer Nigel Lappin, and will he have the thrill of a lifetime, because as Neil said, he did actually own Sure Bet, which won the race last year, and he told me it was right up there with the thrills that he'd had in footy. Speaking of footy, the great footy action continues here on 7 with the Rugby World Cup. Serious business now. The quarterfinals about to be played at venues around Australia like Telstra Dome, and you'll see all of the action exclusively live here on 7 with the Kiwis, the All Blacks against South Africa at 6:25 tonight, followed by the Wallabies against the Scots at 9 o'clock Australian Eastern Daylight Saving Time. The action continues tomorrow with the quarterfinals. France v Ireland at 6:25. England, can they take the William Webb Ellis Cup? They take on Wales at 9 o'clock. That's all coming away exclusively live here on 7. The big race, the Emirates Stakes, only just over an hour away now. We should update you with the figures and see what has been happening in the last hour or so. Clang-a-Lang still in the betting, 650 as you'd expect. Great horse. He's got a lot of weight, but the Epsom winner, the AJC Derby winner of this year. Shogun Lodge still right up there in the betting at $4.80, probably the favourite. Scenic Peak, last year's winner, at $9, much better available in New South Wales at $14 compared to the 9 in Supertab and Unitab. Down to number 7, Sedecrum, has come up exceptionally short at $7.50 for a horse that most of us have never seen before. And Rosina Ladd's come up huge odds at $28, a winner of the Waterford Crystal Mile. Titanic Jack into $9.80, tightening up just a little bit. True Glow from the Freedman stable, $10.40. Can Lee get his 98th Group 1 winner today? A Mission, little quiet tip down the bottom at $18.40. And look at the discrepancy. Forum Floozy, $24.40 and $10.40 in New South Wales. Legends are making their way to the barrier now. This race is over 1,000 metres. It's going to be so wonderful to see them in action. I spoke to Jason Weaver after the race last year. He was genuinely thrilled. Cash Asmussen, it certainly is wonderful to see a rider of his calibre who's won the great races from around the world, including the race that a lot of people consider the greatest race in the world, the Arc de Triomphe. Kenny.
Yeah, it's the big one, and Cash, I'm very keen to watch him ride. A few miles on the clock now. Cash is, when I check the statistics here, he's 41 years of age and is actually the second youngest riding in this race behind Jason Weaver. The man who rode Double Trigger is only a 31-year-old.
So he heads up to the gates along with Pam O'Neill, I mentioned before. There's Alfie Matthews, and terrific to see Alf out there. Let's hope the horse gives him a nice ride. I think Letzi might be out there on the track. He's normally escorting a few riders up to the start. Now, who have you got with you this time, Letzi?
Okay, mate, I've got Malcolm Johnson and Pam O'Neill with me. And I tell you what, it's hard work. Banjo's not that wrapped in it either. But these horses, as you know, they're sprinting horses, Peter, and they know that they're going down to run back, and they're pretty keen to run.
Looks as though you've got your hands full there, Johnny, but the good thing is Pam's mount is a little bit quieter than the one she rode last year in this race.
Exactly, Pete, but these horses are fired up, and you know, you've really got to feel for the jockeys too, because they only ride very rarely. And these horses can really work out going to the barrier.
So there you go, Kenny. That proves what I've been saying all along. John Letts riding a horse, taking 2 horses up to the barrier, microphone in his hand. He can still talk.
And he's a man of many talents. And if you put him at the bottom of a swimming pool, you'd still hear him.
He could talk under wet cement with a mouthful of cricket balls. No question about that. Pam O'Neill closest to camera. And on the other side, Malcolm Johnson. So let's recap the field And Appian Way is an interesting horse here, Kenny, because this is the horse that Jason Weaver is riding. This horse was actually emergency for the sprint race today, so you'd think it'd be pretty fit for this.
I want to back it, Pete. Jason Weaver, they say his weight's up a bit and he'll carry more weight than any other horse, but I think if you want a sneak tip, Jason Weaver on Appian Way.
And do you think Miracle Mel would be happy about the fact that he's riding a horse called Gluteus Maximus, because that is the muscle that is in your posterior?
I realise that, but I don't think Malcolm would know that, but he'll give it every chance. And he'll have plenty to say when he finishes.
Well, he won't need any of that posterior business because he's got class and plenty of it. And as Ken said, 25 wins aboard the mighty Kingston Town, but they all talk about that one day in 1982 when he ran second in that 2-mile race on the Tuesday.
Yes, to Gurner's Lane, but he did win a Cox Plate on Kingston Town. The 3 winning jockeys on Kingston Town were Peter Cook, Malcolm Johnston and Ronnie Quinton, and Malcolm was the regular rider of the champion Black Horse, and you know, you can see the light in his eyes every time he talks about him. There's Cash Asmussen, and he's riding Otavia, a horse from the Danny O'Brien stable.
I can tell you something about Cash too, Kenny. He is a Texan boy, as I said. He's an ambassador for Texas Racing, and that's where they're having the Breeders' Cup next year. Cash has been here with his wife for most of the week, in fact all of the week, and has been getting around Flemington and just taking photos of everything, the birdcage enclosure, all of the way the course is set up. It's just something that he has never seen before, and he said this is the way we have to do the Breeders' Cup next year.
Appian Way has actually had 7 starts at Flemington and been placed in 3 of them. I wonder if we'll add this to his form sheet.
Probably not, but Steve Richards, his trainer, will take it if Jason Weaver can get him home. Look at that shot from up above, looking down on the straight 1,000-metre track. Of course, there are some famous straight tracks in the world. Hong Kong, Falvalon's one up the straight there on their big international day, but there aren't too many more famous than this one.
Now, the straight runs at Ascot, which is probably the world's premier racetrack, where we have the Queen's meeting each year. And, of course, jockeys like Cash Asmussen and John Reid and Jason Weaver have shone at Ascot meetings. They'd all be comfortable up the straight.
It's an interesting atmosphere when you go up the straight and watch the starts of races up at the 1,000 and the 1,100 and the 1,200. It almost seems as though you're so far removed from the atmosphere of the racecourse. Not so much on Melbourne Cup Day when the crowd is down there in the birdcage area, but it does seem so quiet and composed, and then a minute later they're going to be in front of the packed grandstands.
Yeah, as you say, like, it's different today. There's people everywhere, but when there's no one on the track, all of a sudden the horses, normally they come around turns, and they're creatures of habit. They know what they're normally doing, but most of these horses would have been trialled up the straight, and more importantly, they've got jockeys to handle them.
I reckon Dr. Turf would be watching this race at the moment, because even though this
is not running, is he?
No, he's not running, but he'd be betting, don't worry. This is a non-betting race, but I bet he's found someone to say, what do you like on the legends?
He'd know that Appian Way was probably the fittest nag out there, and he'd be trying to back him.
There's Pam O'Neill coming up aboard her mount, Miss Ballana, trained by Peter Newcomb. And there is Miracle Mel, Malcolm Johnston, riding Gluteus Maximus for Jeanette Cooley. There's some good prizes for the trainers here. Let's see these great legends of the turf in action for the Emirates Airlines Legends Race for 2003, and head up to our commentator, Greg Miles.
Going up into the gates, he's riding Point Avoid for Rick Lacey. He's in. There's A1, Ace Matthews, going up, riding Horrocks for Bill Mitchell. David Peake comes up into his position in the stalls. 6 times a premiership rider. Jason Weaver comes up. Rode 200 winners in the UK, one of only 7 jockeys to do so. Cash Asmussen is lined in, and the legends are away and racing. Cash Asmussen jumping fast on the outside with Jason Weaver, and also Elf Matthews coming out this side, and David Peake is up there as well. You wouldn't think they'd split in one of these races, but they have. And down towards the inside, Malcolm Johnston on the grey is going out very quickly. He's pushing that horse along. Going with him is Pam O'Neill on the inside, and John Reid has dropped in behind those 2. But these horses out on the grandstand are coming towards the 400 metres, and they look to have the lead. Jason Weaver in the purple and Cash Asmussen in the red, being chased by David Peake. and Alfie Matthews is starting to wind up in the light blue colours. Now he's coming with his run on the other side. John Reid has bolted to the lead on the inside section. Out this side, and Sky Channel's A1, Ace Matthews has raced up. John Reid on the far side. It's Alf Matthews and John Reid from Jason Weaver. John Reid the inside, and Alf Matthews come to the line, and John Reid has won it. John Reid beating Alf Matthews in the last few strides. I think Alfie might have knocked up more than the horse. Jason Weaver's run third. Cassius Musson, David Peake, and Hiroshi Kawachi in behind them with Miracle, Mel Johnson and Pam O'Neill.
John Reid has done it for Ireland. What a win. That horse was a long way back, as we saw from the overhead shot after they'd gone about 200 metres. They were a good 4 or 5 lengths off the lead. Alfie Matthews, he looked all over a winner, Kenny, but I'll tell you what,
Glenn Boss, ladies and gentlemen, Makybe Diva.
Oh, I'm lost for words. The feeling I've got, it's just, my whole body's just tingling.
You like it? Yeah, I like the checks. Very nice.
4 kids under 4 now.
Yes.
Going to be a busy boy.
We've got to get a TV next year, I think.
The All Blacks are going ordinary, mate.
No, the opposite. They're flying. A bit of pressure was put on them, but it'll strengthen them.
I reckon they're going ordinary. You got any tips for them?
I think the Wallabies are going ordinary.
Little Niali Grace, your daughter that's just been born.
Yep.
Do you grab her in the arms and go past the old trophy cabinet and say, darling, this is what Daddy's done, and so on, so on? We'd like to get another Derby trophy up there today.
No, none at all, mate. She's my biggest trophy, and along with Trish, and she's sleeping well at the moment, which is a huge bonus this time of year.
I don't know. Where'd the suit come from? Noel Callow, Rinky Dink, ran good.
Ran really good. Did I ride as good as you would have ridden from that barrier, Simo?
I don't know about that, but tell us about it.
How's my hair?
All right. Shocking.
Not yours.
Yeah, say that, right? What was I asking? Ready?
I'll say it must be nice to be working with Channel 7.
Yeah, something like that. Now, you and Ollie, you're very competitive when you ride together in races, these big races. You outrode him the other day. Have you mentioned that to him?
I always tell him, mate. I mean, whenever I beat him, I always say I got you.
Any chance of doing the hucker if you win the race?
Yeah, I'll do the huck if we win the race.
You promise? Look down that camera.
I won't promise.
Oh, come on, mate.
But I will if you come out and you...
I'll come out and do it with you.
Okay.
All right, promise?
Tandem.
Cross your heart.
I'll show you. No, I won't do that. No, I won't go that far.
Yes, he will. Thanks, Greg.
Simon Marshall with Greg Childs perhaps might do the haka later in the day, and yes, that suit did look particularly nice. And speaking of fashion plates, here's our very own fashion plate joining me in the studio, Dr. Turf.
Thank you very much, Pete. I've got a feeling that a jockey doing a haka, not really that intimidating.
I don't think we want to see that sort of thing anyway. Now, here's a very curly question for you.
Yes?
Did you back the winner of the Legends race?
No. Fortunately, you weren't allowed to have a bet in the race because...
Since when has that stopped you?
I would have got a good tip for the thing that Cash Asmussen was on, but it went a little bit ordinary. Do they have lead in the saddle there? Because whoever was on Jason Weaver, if they had backed him, he's about three stone heavier than any other jockey there, Pete.
Yes,
not fair.
I think he weighed in about 10 kilos overweight, but still ran a pretty good race to finish third.
Yep.
Now, back to the serious betting races. Let's head down to the betting ring prior to the running of the Sprint Race 5. Pat Welsh, what can you tell us?
Well, it may have something to do with the barriers here. Into the night on the outside has been very, very easy. I've wound into the night out to $5 at the stage after opening him up and about 1.5 points shorter than that. The one that they have come to, Star of Florida, Pemberton, have been easy. Suit has been very solid at around that quote. Kenny Callender's tip. So Breakfast has been a little easy. Deprave is the one that they've come for. Barrier 5, Deprave on the inside, and Deprave is the one that they've been taking plenty of at this stage.
Well, there are good punting stables, so when the money goes on, maybe it might be worth following Pat's advice there with Deprave. I don't know whether the judge will have to call for the photo after the running of the Hilton International Stakes, but you've often heard the race caller say that. Well, if you've ever wondered how it does work, Jason Dunstall can fill us in.
You talk about the best seat in the house. We are sitting in the Judges' Tower on top of the grandstand, about a mile straight up from ground level, directly in line with the finish line. Now, no official results are posted without the gentleman on my left right here doing his business. I'm talking about the man in charge of the photo finish, Mr. Terry Framano. Now, Terry, no numbers go up until you've done your thing on this wonderful technology here. That's correct?
Correct, Jason, yes, but of course the judge verifies the numbers from here. He writes them down and then comes over and verifies with us, and then we go into action.
Now, like that last race, not too many difficulties. They were nicely spread. What about when they're all over the track, blanket finish, and sometimes they go to a developed print, don't they?
No, we used to do that. We don't use prints anymore. We just, we're straight onto the digital, and we might blow the picture up or down, sideways, all that sort of thing. There's no prints anymore.
And no mistakes made ever?
No, well, I wouldn't say ever, but there's none from this end, put it that way.
Now, is there any chance next time we're having a race, if I give you a number first, can you get my number put into the box first?
Some sort of chance, but it's 1,000,000 to 1.
Well, it's a good thing that Terry Framano actually doesn't suffer from heights, Dr. Turf, because I've actually been up there with him, and it is the best vantage point in the racecourse, only bettered by the helicopter, I think.
It is. It's a long way up, Pete, but you do get a great perspective of the line, don't you? Because it's impossible here, especially here at Flemington, Pete. It's very difficult to line them up, particularly here in the mounting yard, because they do sort of run away from you a little bit, but up there you get a pretty good idea.
Now, the horses are making their way into the mounting yard down that famous long walk, so as they do, we'll update the totes for you on race 5, the Hilton International Stakes.
I would suggest, Pete, they may run late here. There's only 11 minutes to go and they're just coming into the yard now.
Yeah, they'll definitely run late. Into the night at $3.60. And as Paddy said, he's been a little easy, and I think that's probably a reaction to what happened in the 2-year-old race earlier with Into the Night during the grandstand.
Yeah, sure, you don't want to jump to too many conclusions quickly. I mean, sometimes the pace is drawn on one side, and that's why that particular side finishes in front of the other side. But having said that, I suppose you can only go at the moment on what we've seen, and maybe that's why he's a little bit easy in the betting, and why Deprave, who's drawn the flat side, he's rock solid.
Star of Florida, Pembleton, Suit, all in the betting, a few others there. Over the page we go. Edgston, $10.70. Good run up the straight the other day with a big weight. Drops a lot in weight here, but a hotter field.
Well, of course, going from the Mayor's Company into the Open Company here today, but she does race very well down the straight, Edgston. Big drop in weight, as you say. That's going to be in her favour, but you know, that's rock bottom odds, I reckon, Edgston.
What a spectacular sight it is from up above as the runners enter the mounting yard, and here is this lovely horse, Into the Night. Geez, a good type. His run the other day was terrific. He won this race last year with Brett Preble aboard, 54.5 kilos, up to 58 today.
Yes, he's up 3.5 for his win last year. He's just a rock solid horse, this guy. Never really runs a bad race, runs well down the straight, as you say. Just probably going to need a little bit of cover with his big weight, and he won't be too far away, assuming that the outside's no disadvantage.
And there is a little bit of money in the ring for him now, and believe it or not, he's by the same sire as the Melbourne Cup winner of 2 years ago, Ethereal. Here's Star of Florida, punctured badly at Caulfield, but that run really was out of character for him.
Well, in actual fact, Pete, he's only run 2 poor races in his life, and they were both at Caulfield. Having said that, look, I think he probably just about lead the outside. He goes very, very fast. Looks to be a lot of pressure here, and I just wonder whether he's up to a high-pressure race, Star of Florida.
He's been a drifter in the ring, down to 3 Pembleton, less than 3 lengths from the winner in quality sprints. Both runs, this preparation has been placed at all 3 runs here.
Yeah, he has, and he ran 3rd in this race last year with 57, drops a kilo. Look, he's been a little bit slow at it his last couple, which is a bit of a concern for a horse who normally races up on the pace. He's certainly got the ability to win, no doubt about that. Handicapper a little bit kinder to him this year. Got some chance. This is a hard race. I've got to say, this is an impossible race.
Real tough race, and the trifecta, as Kenny said before, is engaged here from last year. Into the Night beats Suit and Pembleton. Here is Suit. What a marvel he is, the 9-year-old, and pretty good effort in a strong form race at Caulfield.
Yeah, also, he beat a good mare, Libidinius, down the straight here in March. Ran 2nd, as you said, in this race last year with 56. He's down 1.5 kilos on that. Look, you know, good dry track sprinter. Draw in the middle of the track, which may not be a disadvantage. Yes, not without a chance.
Now on to 5 Prince Rubiton. This horse has a remarkable fresh record. 6 first-up runs, 2 wins, 3 placings.
Yep, drawn to get cover out there in 17. We'll appreciate the 54 kilos. He's used to carrying much bigger weights than that. bit of a worry. His last 2 or 3 runs have been a bit average. Certainly has the ability to win, but take on trust.
Dan Nikolic rode the first winner. He jumps on Sir Breakfast here. Won a quality race, the Ramornie at Grafton in July. Very good first up fourth to Blur at Caulfield.
Yes, he goes okay. In fact, he goes very quick, to be honest. He meets Pemberton 4 kilos worse for his good win at Eagle Farm during the winter. Would have to lift, but has the ability to win.
Bulbasaur number 7, Doc, couldn't find the lead on a slippery surface at Moonee Valley. Prior to that, most impressive leading all the way at Cranbourne.
Yeah, former Tasmanian horse. Probably the pressure got to him at Moonee Valley. Did run second here in May to Sir Chuckle. Drawn 14. Some chance.
No Luck Depraved, the one that they've come for in the ring at Werribee, beaten 2 half heads, protested unsuccessfully, should have won.
Yeah, a bit stiff the other day, no doubt about that. This is his best trip, 1,100 metres. I think that's why he was scratched from the 1,200 metres on the weekend. I think he's got a terrific each-way chance. Very hard to beat, I reckon. This is a nice race for him, nice weight for him as well.
Can you make a case for Fair Embrace? She showed some speed in the Salinger the other day, but knocked up.
Yeah, just got tired the last 100 metres. I reckon she's got some chance in this race, and she is monstrous odds. She'll get a nice run in the race. I think she's got a chance at Fluker's odds.
Sir Chuckle's going to be a big odds in the race. Number 10, Michelle Payne, the rider for Michael Moroney, really isn't going well enough. No closer than 11th in its past 4 runs.
Funnily enough, he's actually raced against Deprave 5 times, and Deprave's beaten him 5 times. I think the pressure's going to burn him out of the race, Pete.
Down to number 11, Academe. Corey Brown has the ride here, has drawn gate number 1 through a plate when it finished 10th at Caulfield. Previous Sydney form pretty good.
Actually beat home our Egyptian Rain 3 starts back, but that's the only positive I can find for Academe. He punctured very badly at Caulfield.
We've already had a bit of a chat about Edgston. Thought the run the other day in the mares race was very good. Dropped 6 kilos, but to counter that, the big rise in class.
Agree there, Pete. Some chance. I don't think that represents value, $11.20, but she can win. 13,
Azevedo's been racing in really the silk department in all the best sprints, but he's been doing little, and he can miss the kick, this horse.
He can, and I actually mentioned the other day that the horse needs a psychiatrist. I've spoken to the trainer. This horse has had feet trouble. He's had 7 feet of intestine taken out as well, and he's got wind problems. So he doesn't need a psychiatrist. He actually needs a team of surgeons. Having said that, I think he goes best down the straight, Pete, and he is monstrous odds. Ran a huge race in the Lightning earlier this year. You know, wouldn't be surprised if he won at huge odds.
By the sound of it, the only thing he hasn't had is dandruff. Off to see number 14, Stephen Bastard, the rider for Charlie Goggin.
I'm glad you said dandruff. I don't know if he's good enough off to see, Pete. Look, he goes well down the straight. In fact, the first race today, I think he may have run a place in that last year. Place for me.
We spoke to Nigel Lappin, one of the part owners of this horse, Sure Bet. Mark Minervini, the trainer, Glenn Boss, the rider, won the Sport 927 sprint this day last year at 20-1 off a similar break.
Yeah, it goes well fresh and has trialled very, very well in Adelaide during the week. Again, I hate saying this, but not without some hope. This is impossible.
And down to the last one, number 16, and that is Last Serenade. As the youngsters look on, I wonder if the young ones fancy Last Serenade. Good win last time against her own gender. Sharp rising class here.
She had a lovely run in that race, and she's big odds on the tote, $32 odd here. Again, hate to say it, she's got a fluker's hope. I sound very vague today, but I reckon this is the hardest race of the 37 races we'll have this week.
I'm glad you clarified that you sound very vague today. The Hilton International Stakes is a listed race over 1,100 metres. They're going to the stalls now as we get closer to the big one on the final day of the Melbourne Cup Carnival, the Group 1 Emirates Stakes. Stay with us wherever you're watching right around Australia. What a great sight here on the final day of the Melbourne Cup Carnival 2003. The roses are in bloom.